Hey there. It's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
Some people do stupid things. Don't do stupid things. You are about to hear my opinion. Do your own research.
Thursday, May 1st, 2025, Mr. Jose Luis Velasquez, an X-ray specialist, conducted a series of surprising tests on the Buga sphere, which fell to Earth after receiving a 10,000-volt discharge. The images obtained yielded surprising results. Sa inside view style, you can observe on the outline in a white hue a dense layer surrounding it, which indicates that it is very thick. In grayer tones, with less density, another less dense material can be seen, which would confirm that the sphere is not hollow and would explain its unusual weight, which has been documented inexplicably, is variable. Likewise, a series of 16 points surrounding the core were detected. These would be microspheres. At the same time, a dark-toned element was observed distributed inside the Buga sphere, which indicates that this material would be the least dense, perhaps porous.
So naturally, I'm like, Buga what? Because I don't know what this Buga sphere is. So I found some stuff about it.
You've probably heard about the mysterious metallic sphere floating over the city of Buga in Colombia, then crashing down into the nearby hills. Is the Buga sphere a legitimate UAP, a secret tech, or an elaborate hoax? After digging in, I found some red flags that are hard to ignore, and they're making me lean toward it being fake. First, the video itself. Lots of cuts, lots of edits. Why not show the entire clip? Unless they are hiding something, which I will later point out what that is. Then the design. The orb in the sky and the one on the ground don't really match. The flying one looks like a simple chrome ball, with none of the structure or details we see on the one recovered from the ground. And those carvings? They just feel off. Too crude for something that's supposed to come from an advanced civilization. The kind of people who could laser cut ancient monuments. These wobbly lines just don't fit that narrative. So how was it done, you may ask? My best guess, 2 separate props, one for the sky and another for the ground. How did they make the one in the sky fly? You can get a hint from this specific cut. The moment the orb passes over the eyewitness. Why don't we see it fly directly above the camera? Instead, there's a jump cut right there. Probably because it would reveal the entire rig. Most likely a drone flying a lightweight chrome ball hanging from a fishing line. And the drone noise? Easy to edit out. Just swap it later with some nature ambient sounds in the post. So yeah, after looking closely, this one is probably man-made. But that's not going to stop us from watching the skies. Because sometimes real mysteries do drop out of the blue. Just ask anyone who remembers the bed sphere.
Boo! I hate when people go and destroy my illusions. I like being like in the mindset of, oh my gosh, it's aliens. And then they're like, no, ruin your dreams. But that's okay. That's okay. Facts are facts. And those weren't actually facts, if I may. Those were suppositions. Yeah, we're going to go with that.
Afternoon, gang. When some of us talk about the mainstream media being manipulative, changing the information that you see, pushing an agenda upon us, manipulating your thoughts, gaslighting people. A lot of people say that that's just a conspiracy theory and that it's not true, that it's not happening. But take a look at these 2 pictures. 1995, 2024, exactly the same temperature, 28 degrees. Now, if you're getting on a little bit like me, I'm in my 50s, mid-50s, then I remember right back to the summer of 1976 when we had, I think it was 6 or 7 solid weeks of it being over 30 degrees every single day, 32, 33, 34, 35, 6 or 7 weeks solidly, not a drop of rain. That was proper temperature. That was proper excess. A couple of days at 28 degrees is not, as it says up here, a heat health warning. It's not something massively excessive. It's not completely out of the norm. And it doesn't warrant the entire map of Great Britain being turned a deep, dark red like the devil is just about to jump upon us. So how do you explain the mainstream media showing these two examples 30 years apart and the change in that if it's not manipulation, if it's not gaslighting, if it's not deliberate brainwashing of people? Is 28 degrees suddenly deeply devastatingly dangerous to people's health now, but it wasn't deeply devastatingly dangerous to people's health in 1995? Really? Have we suddenly discovered some amazing scientific truth that we didn't know about, that if it gets to 27, 28, 29 degrees, we're all going to die? And we didn't know that 30 years ago. Really? Or are they just... It's not a conspiracy theory. The mainstream media deliberately sow the seeds of trying to create thoughts in people's heads and make them scared of stuff, make them panic about stuff, plant the seeds of climate catastrophe, plant the seeds of great heat storms and heat waves plaguing the country and plaguing the planet. It's 28 degrees. It's lovely sunny weather. Get a bloody grip.
So growing up in sunny Southern California, I lived in a home that had zero air conditioning. And I felt every single degree, and I remember there were weeks on end during the summer where it was over 110 degrees every single day. And you know what? That's still happening. It's just being painted differently by the media. You're just taking in different information like, oh, we need to freak out because the people up at the top with their billions and billions of dollars, the World Economic Forum, are pushing an agenda. We all need to freak out about this, but it's basically the same.
It's a conspiracy theory you 100% know is true.
Root canals. There's this YouTube video, which before was a documentary on Netflix before it got pulled after 2 weeks, known as The Root Cause. The Root Cause discusses the big psyop by dental industry and by big pharma to people's health up through root canals. You can't even watch it in the United States. You have to turn on a VPN because it's banned by the American Dental Association, which is in bed with big pharma. I had a root canal recently removed, and once they did the DNA biopsy on the tooth, they found 20 different types of parasites growing and living inside of my jaw, which is absolutely horrendous. And obviously the dentist isn't going to tell you that. So stay away from fluoride, stay away from root canals.
Apparently this has been debunked multiple times by the ADA and the American Health Association. At least that's what the Google machine says, that it's not true. I remember seeing a certain episode, I think it was of X-Files, where they were like putting little tracking devices inside folks' faces, following them around for why I don't remember. But yeah, anytime you open up your skin anywhere, you're susceptible to infection, and that's even more so inside of your mouth. But I mean, that doesn't mean that this is true, because the Google machine says no.
What is your hottest political take?
Homeless encampments and sleeping on the street should be 100% illegal. Whoa, calm down. Wait till I finish. I'm being purposefully provocative. Homeless encampments and sleeping on the street should be 100% illegal, except for when it's within 5,000 feet of a religious institution. Check it out. There are like 400,000 churches in America, all not paying taxes because of their supposed charity work. 400,000. According to HUD's 2023 Annual Homeless Assessment Report, there are about 650,000 unhoused people in America. What's the deal, you guys? Helping the homeless, feeding the poor, that's your bag, that's your whole thing, right? That's why they're not paying taxes. So I say, let's bring the problem to their front door. You can't camp out in the streets of Los Angeles anymore, unless it's in front of the Scientology Center. I'm sure the Catholic Church will be more than happy to spend the money to solve this problem, once its congregants are weaving around the tents to go into Easter Mass. The Mormon Church is the wealthiest church in the world. You want to see how fast homelessness will get solved when the only place homeless people can sleep is in front of the temples? So that's my biggest political hot take. You can only camp in front of a church. And if the church doesn't like it, they can either start paying taxes or solve the problem.
Huh. Well, that certainly is an interesting take, isn't it? And if you're taking away anything from this channel, won't you please hit that like button? And if you haven't already, consider subscribing.
It's a representation of pi in a geometric sense. It's kind of interesting because the way you get pi out of it is the lengths of the different arcs in each segment. And what happens is there's these little notches in the spiral that let you know you're at the end of an arc. So you actually have to measure the arc lengths as you go around, and their lengths give you the digits of pi. And there's a little circle to give you the decimal point.
The binary code in Chilbolton. In August 2001, something unprecedented appeared near the Chilbolton Radio Telescope in Hampshire, England. Not one, but two intricate crop formations emerged, one resembling a human face, and the other a response to the Arecibo message sent into deep space in 1974. AI analysis of the so-called Chilbolton-Arecibo reply revealed binary-coded data shockingly similar to the original, but altered. The decoded message referenced a different DNA structure, non-human beings, and a planetary system unfamiliar to astronomers. AI, parsing thousands of crop circle patterns, noted this one broke the mold. It wasn't symbolic, it was informational. A reply embedded in an agricultural field. But how did it get there? And who was meant to decode it? It wasn't until machine learning recognized the binary fingerprint that researchers realized this formation wasn't random. Was it an intercepted message? A hoax beyond human capability? Or something far more disturbing? Proof of contact hidden in plain sight.
Excuse me for just a second while I advocate for the devil. Just a little bit. They found pi. It's a circle. Of course, if you break it down mathematically, you're going to get pi because that's how you calculate the circumference of a circle is pi r squared. So, yeah, pi is no big surprise. When they talk about how it was made, I know I've seen this stupid video that destroys my illusion, but they have like GPS trackers and they plot all this stuff in and then they know when to do the things to make it say zeros and ones. And I hate when that part of my brain is like, hey, here's some smart stuff. And the other part of my brain is like, shut up. It's aliens. Yeah, of course they found pi.
And over 85% of the grass-fed beef in the American market is imported product, not raised in America. Isn't that nuts? In 20 years, we've gone from being a very early innovator to, just a mere meager portion of 15%.
Well, that's true, but it's not the worst part. The worst part is that imported beef is legally labeled product of the USA.
How's that?
If value is added in this country, it's a product of the USA.
What?
And we compete with it every day.
How did they add value?
Ooh, go ahead. No, you go. This is good.
If they grind it, slice it, cut it, package it, label it,
rebox it,
transport it. But the animal, make no mistake, the animal was born, raised, and slaughtered in Uruguay, Australia, New Zealand, or 20 other countries.
Lithuania, Croatia.
The United States imports beef from places like Australia, Canada, and much of Latin America. It then runs that beef through USDA inspection, and if it passes, sticks a label on it that reads product of the USA. How dare you?
But honestly,
that's so dirt.
That should be wrong. They should tell you where your beef came from or where anything came from. I know in a lot of products they have, made in China, assembled in the United States. But they should say something like that on the product, like product of Uruguay, processed in the United States, something like that. But there's also other things going on with the beef.
However, this deal could be more bad news for British farmers, as it's understood that the tariffs on American beef will be cut to zero as part of a 12-month temporary arrangement. Now, that could mean the UK could be flooded with cheap American beef, undercutting British farmers at a time where they're already severely under the cosh.
This is where trade eludes me a little bit, and I do get eluded quite often. Are we importing beef from like Uruguay, like you said, and then processing it here and then exporting it to the UK, and that's why they're being flooded with cheap beef? Or, so we're importing it and processing it here and giving our people expensive processed imported beef while exporting our own homegrown beef elsewhere. That's why our beef is so expensive. That's dumb. That's dumb. Is that what's happening? Because that feels like that's what's happening, unless, of course, my brain is confused, which wouldn't surprise me.
U.S. imports of cattle, horses, and bison now at a screeching halt at the southern border. The reason is the spread of a flesh-eating pest now detected on livestock in Mexico.
And today, state leaders will be debriefed by our own agriculture department during a committee hearing. KOCO's Jordan Ryan, she's live for us here in the studio with those details. Jordan, what's the latest here?
Well, this very small New World screwworm is causing big problems, and it's not the first time. So back in the late 1960s, the U.S. eradicated screwworm through the release of sterile male flies. Now the U.S. and Mexico are working on similar eradication efforts once again. No cases have been detected in the U.S., but U.S. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rowland says for now there is too much risk to allow beef from southern nations into the U.S., saying in a statement that this is not about politics, but about food and animal safety. Now, the screwworm is a larva of a fly that can invade tissues of animals and humans. The parasite can cause serious and life-threatening damage. So today, the Oklahoma State Secretary of Agriculture will be addressing local lawmakers about the importance of strict action to protect Oklahoma's livestock industry.
I seem to be a little hyper-focused on beef today. I must be hungry. I must also be tired of paying way too much for beef because it went up 60% in the last month, and now we're exporting more, and now we can't import more, and we just need to homegrown beef. Buy local. Buy local. Oh, I also had to find out about this screwworm situation, so check this out.
The Darien Gap is one of the most dangerous and hospitable places on the planet, and every week, the U.S. government drops 14.7 million sterilized screwworms from a plane onto this rainforest. As crazy as it sounds, it's actually been a really successful eradication effort of a really nasty insect we call the screwworms. These things, they were moving up north and they would burrow into warm-blooded animals like cattle or even humans, eventually dropping back out, but it was leaving gruesome injuries, just really nasty things. In the 1950s, we started pushing back and they would create these males that were sterile, they're infertile, and the males actively look for the females to reproduce with. The females only look for one male. So when you have all of these sterile males taking up this energy, taking up this reproduction, and then no offspring coming from it, this quickly worked. And actually by the year 2001, we were able to push these things all the way back down into South America. And that's why today they still dump 14.7 million of these things a week right into this region to help prevent any future invasion moving north.
My brain wants to twist this. So let's go a little conspiracy brain on it. What if it is political? What if they're like, hey, let's just forget to drop that load this week and just see what happens? And then the worms start coming out a little more farther north. And then they're like, Mexico, we can't take your beef right now. And then we start just keeping our beef here in the United States from the United States beef because there's lots of it. I don't know. Maybe.
The Julia Set Formation. On July 7th, 1996, pilots flying over Stonehenge spotted something impossible. A 915-foot-long crop formation, a perfect fractal known as the Julia Set, had appeared next to the ancient monument. Experts estimated it would take days to create, but locals swore it wasn't there just hours before. When AI studied this anomaly, it detected a level of mathematical sophistication that until recently couldn't be generated without computational tools. Using neural networks trained on fractal geometry, the AI confirmed something eerie. The pattern bore the hallmarks of iterative design, likely generated by a complex algorithm. Not random, not man-made art, but a data set. Even more unsettling, parts of the formation matched patterns found in quantum interference experiments. What was the message, and why encode quantum chaos in a field of barley? Was someone or something trying to tell us that they understand the building blocks of our universe better than we do.
Is anybody else out there really pissed off at the rational side of their brain going, yeah, we can do that. We have complex computational devices that can do this thing. And then they can go out and do it. Does anybody else hate that? I hate it. I hate it. But the fact that it would take days and it was there within hours, that's where the fun side of my brain is like, no, your complex computational rationale doesn't fit here. You're not welcome. Yeah, it's a real battle in there about crop circles.
100% he got.
I didn't even know that.
Now, you didn't hear about it because
no,
the
I thought
press,
it was a standstill.
The press won't. No, he got everything, and he got it in record time. And the press won't report it because it's a victory for Trump.
I thought that we were still negotiating Panama. We got what we wanted out of Panama.
We got everything there. Chinese companies are out. Tariffs to put our ships through are down. U.S. troops are there providing security for the canal now. 100% he got.
Yeah, that happened.
So the U.S. has struck a deal with Panama to secure the Panama Canal from China. So here's what happened today, right? Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced a new U.S.-Panama agreement giving U.S. warships priority and free passage through the Panama Canal. Speaking in Panama, Hegseth stood next to the Panamanian officials and said China did not build this canal, does not operate it, and will not weaponize it. So here's why this matters. The Panama Canal handles 40% of U.S. container traffic, worth nearly $270 billion a year. It's also a vital route for U.S. Navy ships moving between the Atlantic and Pacific. The U.S. also built this canal, but transferred control over to Panama in 1999. So what's China's angle? Chinese companies have commercial leases at both ends of the canal, and the U.S. sees this as a strategic threat. And the new deal aims to block any Chinese leverage over global shipping. China's embassy in Panama is not very happy. They're accusing the U.S. of blackmail and trying to sabotage Chinese Panamanian business ties. Bottom line, the U.S. is making it clear that the canal will stay open and out of Beijing's hands.
My husband brought this up to me a few days ago when it happened, and I had no clue because they're not going to tell you on the mainstream media because it's a step in the right direction for the current administration, and why would they tell you something good is happening or may potentially be happening? No, they want to keep you unawares of the good things that are coming out of this administration. Anyway, let's move on with our series.
That we didn't know anything. They did not menace us or threaten us at all because they knew right away we were intellectually inferior and scientifically inferior.
Then how was it that they crashed? Was there any information about that if they have such technology? How is it that...
Something had gone wrong, and that was one of the major things that we asked them. We asked them what they ate. We asked them what kind of gases they needed. We asked them about their life support, their origin. We asked them what they used for propulsion. We asked them what there was, things like that. And we asked them what they thought went wrong. And why they were, first of all, even coming here. Why did they come to visit us?
Do you remember what they said?
They're so obviously superior. Why would they want to come to Earth?
What did they say?
Well, this one indicated, at least telepathically, like they don't have a sex like we do, so I can't say he or she or something. It indicated that they were exploring intergalactic space, what we would call intergalactic space. He didn't call it that. Search a better source than where they were. They were running into a problem where they are from because of some physical condition, energy-wise. And they needed to go some other place. And so we took it that they were wanting to maybe colonize some other place. And they were finding that Earth was entirely unsuitable to them. And that's why they were, because they found out that we are not at their level at all, so they had nothing to fear from us.
How little they know. I think they would have a lot to fear. But they still didn't know what happened to their propulsion system that would have brought them down?
No, they didn't exactly know. They knew that it was a malfunction of something, but they didn't know. And in fact, one being just on the verge of trying to go with a couple engineers and scientists into it in more detail when he succumbed. It succumbed, and they couldn't bring him back.
Were they only one ship, or were they just there by themselves as a scout ship, or were there any others in the Armada?
They claimed there were 8. That was a Maverick that somehow lost position or something. I don't know whether it was a time warp or what, but they got out of the direction where the others were even going. And one ship, he claimed, crashed in Siberia in the same group. Of course, he didn't know what it was called, but we told him it's the United States.
Did he say where they were from and what star system? You said, and were they from this galaxy?
They indicated to us that they were not from our galaxy, definitely not from our galaxy. And the star system, the name was absolute gibberish to us. We didn't know what it meant.
Was that at that point in time? Do you have any knowledge whether we found that star system now?
So far as I know, we still have it unknown.
And how many people were around when you were there, or were there government people? Were there other scientists?
Government people, there were military people, there were scientists, there were lower echelon people. There were many individuals about both men and women, many people.
How did you get from where you were with the scientists you were with to that point of where the ship
and military vehicles to the site?
Were you interrogated at all before they allowed you to see this?
No, because I was just sort of in the background, and I was just, I had no positive, even 5th or 6th line interest in it.
That's super cool. I'm still waiting for the part where Albert Einstein has flown in. We still have 2 parts left, and maybe he'll join us on Friday. But I'm going to call it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, consider subscribing, and then come on back in a couple of days. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.